The massive communication array on Station Alpha 7 crackled to life with an urgent transmission. Ambassador Kythul of the Altarian Republic watched the holographic display with growing alarm as the human message played for the third time. His blue-scaled hands trembled slightly as he processed what he was hearing. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human diplomatic vessel UHS Defiance," the transmission began. The human looked tired, his brown hair disheveled and his uniform wrinkled. Behind him, red warning lights flashed across his ship's bridge. "We are sending this message to all Coalition members with the highest priority coding. Earth is under imminent threat." Kythul paused the message and called for an emergency session of the Galactic Coalition Council. Within an hour, representatives from the three major coalition species had gathered in the station's main conference room. The Altarians, with their reptilian features and blue scales, sat across from the insectoid Velconians with their compound eyes and chitinous armor. The crystalline Christek representatives hummed softly, their translucent bodies refracting the room's light into rainbow patterns. "Play the message again," ordered Admiral Vextar, the Velconian military commander. His mandibles clicked nervously as Morrison's image reappeared. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected a massive fleet heading toward Earth. Morrison continued in the recording. "We have identified the ships as belonging to the Zephyrian Empire. Intelligence reports suggest they have over 10,000 warships in their invasion force." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless conquerors. Their insectoid warriors had destroyed dozens of civilizations, turning entire planets into breeding grounds for their expanding empire. Morrison's voice grew more urgent. "Our main fleet is scattered across the outer colonies, dealing with raids and protecting our settlements. We cannot recall them in time to defend Earth. The Zephyrian fleet will arrive in 6 days. We are requesting immediate military assistance from our coalition allies." The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Kythul was the first to speak. "How many ships can the humans contribute to a joint defense?" According to their military database, Admiral Vextar consulted his datapad. Humans currently have approximately 800 warships. If they recall ships from the nearest colonies, they might manage to gather 200 to 300 vessels for Earth's defense. "That won't be enough," rumbled Zektor, the senior Christek representative. His voice resonated like wind chimes in a storm. "The Zephyrians never attack unless they have overwhelming numerical superiority. 10,000 ships against a few hundred means certain defeat." The debate continued for hours. The coalition had never faced such a large Zephyrian force before. Their usual strategy involved hit-and-run tactics against smaller enemy fleets. A direct confrontation of this magnitude was unprecedented. "There is a way," Admiral Vextar finally said, his voice thoughtful. "The Nexus Point. It's a gravitational anomaly 3 days' travel from Earth. Ships must pass through that location to reach the human homeworld. If we could gather enough vessels there, we could create a choke point." Kythul nodded slowly. "A defensive line at the Nexus Point would force them to fight us on our terms. How many ships would we need?" "At least 2,000, Vextar replied. "The Velconian fleet can provide 600 vessels. The Altarians have 400 ships within range. The Christek can contribute 300. That gives us 1,300 ships, but we need more." "The humans must provide at least 500 ships," Zektor stated firmly. "Without their contribution, we cannot establish an effective defense." The next several hours were spent coordinating the massive military operation. Messages flew across space to naval commanders throughout Coalition space. Ships began changing course, converging on the nexus point from dozens of star systems. The largest fleet in Coalition history was being assembled in less than 72 hours. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison received the Coalition's response aboard his ship. He stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance, reading the formal message that outlined the defense plan. His communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Murphy, waited anxiously for his response. "Sir?" she asked. "What are your orders?" Morrison stared at the message for a long moment. The Coalition was asking humanity to provide 500 warships for the defense. It was a reasonable request, given what was at stake. The problem was that humanity didn't have 500 ships available. "Send a reply to Ambassador K. Thule," Morrison said finally. "Tell him that humanity agrees to the defense plan. We will send our contribution to the Nexus Point as requested." Lieutenant Murphy looked confused. "Sir, how many ships are we sending?" Morrison's expression was grim but determined. "Tell them we're sending everything we can spare. Every ship that Earth can provide for this battle." "And how many is that?" "Sir, 1 ship, Lieutenant. We're sending 1 ship." Murphy's eyes widened in shock. "Sir, surely you don't mean—" "I mean exactly what I said," Morrison interrupted. "Send the message. Tell them that humanity's contribution to the defense fleet will arrive at the Nexus Point in 48 hours. As the transmission was sent, Morrison walked to the viewing port and stared out at the stars. He knew what the Coalition representatives would think when they learned the truth. They would feel betrayed, abandoned by their human allies in their darkest hour. But Morrison also knew something that the aliens didn't. Humanity had spent the last 5 years developing something that would change space warfare forever. The project had been kept secret from even their closest allies. Soon the galaxy would learn that humans had a very different idea about what constituted military strength. The UHS Defiance changed course, heading toward Earth at maximum speed. Morrison had to coordinate with the 1 ship that would represent all of humanity in the coming battle. As he watched the stars streak past, he couldn't help but smile grimly. The Coalition expected a human fleet. They were about to discover that sometimes 1 ship was all humanity needed. The Zephyrian Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had chosen to threaten Earth, and now they would learn why that was the worst decision they had ever made. The defense of the Nexus Point would be unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. Morrison opened a secure communication channel to Earth. It was time to wake up humanity's greatest weapon. The Nexus Point buzzed with activity as Coalition ships arrived from across the galaxy. The gravitational anomaly created a natural bottleneck in space, where swirling energy fields forced all vessels to follow specific flight paths. It was the perfect place for a defensive stand. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Velconian dreadnought Storm's Edge, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. 600 Velconian ships had taken position along the outer perimeter. Their sleek black vessels bristled with plasma cannons and missile pods. The insectoid designs looked deadly and efficient against the backdrop of twisted space. The Altarian fleet occupied the middle defensive line. Ambassador Kai Thule had joined Admiral Rexana aboard the heavy cruiser Star's Wisdom. 400 blue-hulled ships formed a solid wall of armor and energy shields. Their weapons were different from the Velconians, favoring particle beams and gravitational disruptors. The Christek contingent held the inner position, closest to the Nexus Point itself. 300 crystalline vessels reflected and amplified the strange energies of the anomaly. Their ships seemed to glow with inner light, and their unique technology could bend space-time in ways that other species didn't fully understand. "Impressive sight," Admiral Vextar said to his tactical officer. "Nearly 1,400 ships, the largest coalition fleet ever assembled." "Yes, sir," the officer replied. "We're receiving reports that all units are in position. The humans should arrive within the next few hours." Vextar nodded. The human contribution was crucial to their defense plan. 500 additional ships would give them the numbers they needed to face the Zephyrian swarm with confidence. Hours passed. The coalition fleet waited in formation, ready for battle. Sensors monitored the approach routes constantly, watching for any sign of the human reinforcements. Finally, Lieutenant Commander Telvar at the sensor station called out excitedly, "Contact! Human ships approaching on Vector 77 Mark IV. "How many?" Vextar asked, moving to the tactical display. Telvar frowned at his readings. "Sir, I'm only detecting one vessel. It appears to be a heavy cruiser, standard human design." "One ship?" Vextar's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Check your sensors. There must be more." "Negative, sir. Confirmed single contact. The vessel is identifying itself as the UHS Retribution." Across the fleet, similar conversations were taking place on every coalition bridge. The aliens watched in growing confusion as a lone human warship approached their position. The UHS Retribution was certainly impressive for a heavy cruiser, measuring nearly 800 meters in length with thick armor plating and multiple weapon turrets, but it was still just one ship. "Open a channel to the human vessel," Vextar ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the UHS Retribution. A woman in her mid-30s stood at the center, wearing a crisp human naval uniform. Her black hair was pulled back in a military style, and her dark eyes held a confidence that seemed out of place, given the circumstances. "This is Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the UHS Retribution," she said with a slight nod, "requesting permission to join the Coalition Defense Fleet." "Captain Rodriguez," Vextar replied, trying to keep his voice neutral. "I am Admiral Vextar, commanding the Coalition forces. We were expecting a larger human contingent. Where are the rest of your ships?" Rodriguez's expression didn't change. "Admiral, the UHS Retribution represents the complete human contribution to this defense operation." Stunned silence filled the communication channel. Vextar stared at the human captain, certain he had misunderstood. "Captain, you must be mistaken. We were told that humanity would provide 500 warships." "No mistake, Admiral," Rodriguez replied calmly. "My ship is humanity's answer to the Zephyrian threat." Angry voices erupted from multiple channels as other coalition commanders joined the conversation. Ambassador Kythul's scaled face appeared on a smaller screen, his expression one of barely controlled fury. "This is unacceptable," he declared. "We have committed nearly 1,400 ships to this defense. Humanity promised 500 vessels, and you arrive with one." "Captain Rodriguez," Admiral Rexana added from her bridge, "surely you understand that one ship, no matter how well armed, cannot possibly make a significant difference against 10,000 Zephyrian vessels." Rodriguez listened to the protests without interruption. When the alien commanders finished voicing their outrage, she spoke again in the same calm tone. "I understand your concerns. I respectfully request a private meeting with the senior coalition leadership. What I have to show you will change your perspective on this situation. What could you possibly show us that would justify this betrayal of our alliance?" Vextar demanded. "The reason why humanity sent only one ship," Rodriguez replied, "and why one ship is all we need." The communication channel fell silent again. Vextar exchanged glances with his officers. The human captain's confidence was puzzling. Either she was completely delusional, or humanity had some secret that the Coalition didn't know about. "Very well," Vextar said finally. "You will transport to my flagship immediately. Bring whatever evidence you claim to have. Actually, Admiral, I suggest we meet aboard the Alterian vessel Star's Wisdom. Ambassador Kai Thul should hear this directly, as should representatives from all 3 Coalition species." Within an hour, the senior leaders of the Coalition fleet had gathered in the main conference room aboard the Star's Wisdom. Captain Rodriguez arrived with 2 members of her crew: Chief Engineer Sam Carter, a tall man with graying hair and steady hands, and Dr. Amy Walsh, a woman in her 40s wearing a medical officer's uniform. The conference room was tense. 12 alien representatives sat around the curved table, their various species creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. All of them stared at the 3 humans with expressions ranging from anger to curiosity. Ambassador Kai Thul spoke first. "Captain Rodriguez, you have requested this meeting to explain why humanity has abandoned its allies in our greatest hour of need. I hope you have a very good explanation." Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, her posture confident and relaxed. "Honored representatives, humanity has not abandoned you. We have sent our most powerful weapon to aid in Earth's defense." "One ship is your most powerful weapon?" Admiral Rexana asked skeptically. "Not the ship itself," Rodriguez replied. "What the ship carries, and what it can do." Chief Engineer Carter stepped forward, activating a holographic projector. The air above the table shimmered, forming into a 3-dimensional image of the UHS Retribution's internal structure. The aliens leaned forward, studying the display with interest. "What you're seeing," Carter explained, "is the result of 5 years of secret development. The UHS Retribution isn't just a heavy cruiser. It's a weapons platform unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen." Dr. Walsh joined the presentation. "The key is the neural interface technology we've developed. It allows a human consciousness to merge with an advanced artificial intelligence, creating a hybrid command system with capabilities that exceed both human intuition and computer processing power." The alien representatives exchanged glances. Several looked intrigued, despite their anger. "That's interesting," Admiral Vextar said. "But how does this justify sending only 1 ship?" Rodriguez smiled for the first time since arriving. "Because that 1 ship carries 50,000 autonomous combat drones, each one capable of independent thought and coordinated action. When fully deployed, the UHS Retribution becomes a fleet unto itself." The conference room erupted in surprised voices. As the aliens processed this information, Rodriguez raised her hand for silence. "Gentlemen, ladies, honored beings," she said. "You expected a human fleet. Instead, you got something better. You got humanity's promise that Earth will not fall. And when humans make a promise, we keep it." Ambassador Kai Thul stared at the holographic display, his mind racing. If what the humans claimed was true, the defense of the Nexus Point had just become very interesting indeed. The secured conference room aboard the Star's Wisdom hummed with tension as Captain Rodriguez prepared to reveal humanity's greatest military secret. The holographic projector cast blue light across the faces of the assembled coalition leaders. Ambassador Kai Thul leaned forward, his scaled hands clasped tightly together. "Show us," he said simply. Chief Engineer Sam Carter activated a new sequence on the projector. The image changed to show the interior of the UHS Retribution's cargo bays. Instead of the usual supplies and equipment, The vast spaces were filled with thousands of sleek black objects arranged in perfect rows. These are the autonomous combat drones, Carter explained. Each one is 3 meters long and equipped with its own power source, weapon systems, and quantum processing core. But the real innovation isn't in the individual units. Dr. Amy Walsh stepped forward, her medical scanner in hand. The breakthrough came when we discovered that human brain patterns could interface directly with quantum-based artificial intelligence. Our neural pathways have a unique flexibility that other species lack. Admiral Vextar's compound eyes focused on the hologram. You're talking about direct mental control of machines? More than control, Rodriguez replied. Complete integration. When I link with the system, I don't just command the drones, I become them. Every sensor becomes my eyes. Every weapon becomes my hand. Every tactical computer becomes part of my mind. Admiral Rex Anna shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Such technology sounds dangerous. What prevents the artificial intelligence from taking control of the human operator? Carter smiled grimly. That's where human stubbornness comes in handy. Our minds are naturally resistant to outside influence. The AI can't override human instincts and creativity. Instead, it enhances them. We've been testing this system for 3 years, Dr. Walsh added. Captain Rodriguez has logged over 1,000 hours in neural link training. She can control up to 50,000 drones simultaneously while maintaining her own personality and decision-making ability. Zektor, the senior Christek representative, resonated a complex harmonic pattern that translated roughly as deep concern. The ethical implications of such technology are troubling. Merging organic consciousness with artificial intelligence has been attempted by many species. Most results were unfortunate. We understand the risks, Rodriguez said. That's why only volunteers with specific neural patterns can use the system. The selection process took 2 years. Out of 10,000 candidates, only 12 humans proved compatible. 12? Ambassador Kythul asked. So there are other ships like the Retribution? No, Rodriguez replied. The Retribution is the only operational vessel. The others are still in development. I'm the only captain qualified for combat operations. The weight of this revelation settled over the room. The defense of Earth, and potentially the survival of human civilization, rested on one ship and one person's ability to control an artificial intelligence system. We need a demonstration, Admiral Vextar declared. Your claims are extraordinary. We require proof before we can adjust our battle plans. Rodriguez nodded. I was hoping you'd ask. Carter, initiate Phoenix Protocol. Carter activated his communicator. Retribution Control, this is Chief Carter. Initiate Phoenix Protocol, demonstration mode. Authorization Rodriguez 77 Alpha. The air in the conference room shimmered. A new holographic figure materialized at the far end of the table. It appeared humanoid, but was composed entirely of shifting blue light patterns. The figure was tall and elegant, with features that seemed both ancient and futuristic. Greetings, the figure said in a voice that was clearly artificial, yet somehow warm. I am Phoenix, the artificial intelligence system aboard the UHS Retribution. The alien representatives stared in amazement. Several of the Christek delegation began humming, in harmonics that indicated extreme interest. Phoenix operates continuously, Dr. Walsh explained. It monitors ship systems, processes tactical data, and maintains the drone network even when not linked with a human operator. Ambassador Kythul addressed the AI directly. Phoenix, what are your primary objectives? I exist to protect Earth and her allies. Phoenix replied without hesitation. My secondary objective is to preserve the life and well-being of Captain Rodriguez during combat operations. My tertiary objective is to minimize casualties among all sentient beings while achieving mission success. How many drones can you control independently? Admiral Rexana asked. Without human interface, I can effectively coordinate approximately 5,000 units. With Captain Rodriguez linked to my systems, that number increases to 50,000. The human element provides creative tactical thinking that I cannot replicate through calculation alone. Admiral Vextar leaned back in his chair, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. This technology could revolutionize space warfare. Why has humanity kept it secret? Rodriguez answered. Because we hoped we'd never have to use it. Phoenix represents the militarization of artificial intelligence on a scale that makes us uncomfortable. We built this system as a last resort. And now? Kythul asked. Now Earth faces extinction, Rodriguez said grimly. 10,000 Zephyrian ships are coming to destroy my home world. I'd rather risk the dangers of neural linking than watch humanity disappear from the galaxy. Phoenix's holographic form turned toward Rodriguez. Captain, with your permission, I would like to show our allies the current status of the drone deployment. Rodriguez nodded. The hologram changed again, showing a real-time view of space around the Coalition fleet. The alien representatives gasped as they saw thousands of small objects emerging from the UHS Retribution's cargo bays. The deployment has already begun, Phoenix explained. Each drone is taking position within the defensive formation. They will remain in stealth mode until combat operations commence. Stealth mode? Admiral Vextar inquired. The drones use adaptive camouflage plating, Carter explained. They're nearly invisible to standard sensors. Each unit can also operate completely silently with no energy emissions that would reveal their location. Dr. Walsh added, The neural link allows Captain Rodriguez to coordinate their movements in real time. She can respond to changing battle conditions faster than any traditional command structure. The conference room fell silent as the alien leaders processed what they had learned. The implications were staggering. One human ship could potentially field a combat force larger than most planetary defense fleets. There's something else you should know, Rodriguez said quietly. The drones aren't just weapons platforms. Each one carries a small but powerful quantum computer. When networked together, they create a processing system more powerful than anything currently known to exist. Phoenix nodded agreement. The collective, computational power allows for real-time analysis of complex battle scenarios. I can predict enemy movements, calculate optimal firing solutions, and coordinate defensive maneuvers across thousands of variables simultaneously. Zektor resonated another complex harmony. This technology, it borders on what my people would consider artificial consciousness. Maybe it does, Rodriguez admitted. But consciousness or not, Phoenix is dedicated to protecting life. The Zephyrians show no such restraint. Ambassador Kythul stood up slowly. Captain Rodriguez, Dr. Walsh, Chief Carter, what you have shown us today changes everything. If your system performs as promised, we may actually have a chance against the Zephyrian fleet. More than a chance, Rodriguez said with quiet confidence. We're going to win. The Zephyrians have never faced anything like this before. They expect to overwhelm us with numbers. Instead, they're going to discover that sometimes intelligence beats brute force. Admiral Vextar looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the stealth drones. How long before you can be fully operational? Phoenix and I will begin the neural linking process in 6 hours, Rodriguez replied. The full network will be active well before the Zephyrians arrive. Then we have work to do, Admiral Rexana declared. Our battle plans need to be completely revised. As the alien leaders filed out of the conference room, each lost in thought about what they had witnessed, Captain Rodriguez remained behind with her crew. Phoenix's holographic form flickered slightly. Captain, the AI said, I must inform you that the coming battle will push both our systems to their absolute limits. The risk to your neural patterns is significant. Rodriguez looked at the shifting blue figure that represented humanity's most advanced artificial intelligence. Phoenix, if we lose this battle, there won't be an Earth left to return to. I'm willing to take that risk. As am I, Captain. As am I. The medical bay aboard the UHS Retribution had been transformed into something that looked more like a high-tech laboratory than a hospital. Dr. Amy Walsh moved between banks of monitoring equipment, checking readings on dozens of screens that displayed everything from neural activity to quantum field fluctuations. Captain Lisa Rodriguez lay on a specialized medical table at the center of the room. Thin cables connected various points on her head and spine to a massive computer core that hummed with barely contained energy. Her eyes were closed, but her vital signs showed she was fully conscious and alert. Neural pathway mapping is complete, Dr. Walsh announced to the bridge crew watching via video link. All connections are showing green across the board. Chief Engineer Sam Carter monitored the technical aspects from his station near the quantum processors. Phoenix is standing by for integration. Power levels are optimal, and the drone network is fully deployed throughout the coalition formation. On the bridge, Lieutenant Ben Hayes managed the tactical displays, while Commander Nick Foster coordinated with the coalition fleet. The alien ships had repositioned themselves according to new battle plans that incorporated the human drone network into their defensive strategy. Captain, Dr. Walsh said softly, we're ready to begin the neural link. Are you prepared? Rodriguez opened her eyes and looked at the doctor. I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years, Amy. Let's wake up Phoenix. Initiating neural link in 3, 2, 1. Now. The medical bay filled with a soft blue glow as the quantum processors activated. Rodriguez's eyes fluttered, closed again, but this time something fundamental had changed. Her consciousness began expanding beyond the confines of her physical body. At first, she experienced the familiar sensation of linking with Phoenix. The artificial intelligence's presence felt like a warm, intelligent ocean surrounding her thoughts. Then the network began to unfold, and Rodriguez gasped at the sheer scope of what she could suddenly perceive. 50,000 drones spread throughout. Space became extensions of her awareness. Each one was a point of light in her consciousness, equipped with sensors that fed information directly into her enhanced mind. She could see the coalition fleet from thousands of different angles simultaneously, perceiving details that would be impossible for any normal human to process. Link established, Phoenix's voice echoed in her mind, no longer coming through speakers but resonating directly in her thoughts. All systems are operating within normal parameters. Drone network is fully responsive. Through the drone's sensors, Rodriguez watched the coalition ships take their positions. The Velconian vessels moved like hunting predators, their black hulls gleaming with weapon arrays. The Alterian ships formed solid walls of blue armor, their energy shields creating rippling barriers of protective force. The Christek contingent positioned themselves near the nexus point itself, their crystalline hulls refracting the strange energies of the spatial anomaly. This is incredible, Rodriguez whispered, her voice barely audible in the medical bay but clearly heard by Phoenix. Across their neural link. "You are experiencing the network as I always do," Phoenix replied. "Every sensor, every calculation, every tactical possibility exists simultaneously in our shared consciousness." Rodriguez began experimenting with her new capabilities. She directed a small group of drones to perform a complex maneuver around one of the Velconian ships. The sleek black units moved in perfect formation, their movements so coordinated they seemed to be performing an elaborate dance. Commander Foster's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, Admiral Vextar is requesting a demonstration of the drone network's defensive capabilities." "Tell him he's about to see something amazing," Rodriguez replied, though her attention remained split between thousands of different viewpoints. She selected 500 drones positioned near the Velconian flagship and had them drop their stealth camouflage simultaneously. The space around the storm's edge suddenly filled with visible spacecraft, appearing as if from nowhere. The drones arranged themselves in a complex three-dimensional pattern around the alien vessel. On the storm's edge, Admiral Vextar watched in amazement as his ship became the center of a protective formation unlike anything he had ever seen. The human drones moved with inhuman precision, their positions shifting constantly to maintain optimal defensive coverage. "Phoenix," Rodriguez said through their link, "show me the long-range sensors. I want to see what's coming." The AI shared its sensor data, and Rodriguez's enhanced perception expanded even further. At the edge of their detection range, she could see the approaching darkness that represented the Zephyrian fleet. 10,000 ships moving in perfect formation, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with malevolent energy. "They're still 18 hours out," Phoenix informed her, "but their approach vector is exactly as predicted. They will emerge from hyperspace, directly into our defensive zone." Rodriguez studied the enemy formation through her network. The Zephyrian ships looked like enormous insects, their hulls covered in chitinous armor and bristling with organic weapons. At the center of their fleet was a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest coalition ships. "That's their command ship," she observed, "the one that looks like a giant wasp." "Confirmed. Intelligence reports identify it as the Nest Mother flagship of Hive Queen Ziraketh. It carries approximately 50,000 Zephyrian warriors and serves as the primary coordination hub for their fleet." Dr. Walsh's voice interrupted their analysis. "Captain, your neural activity is showing some unusual patterns. How are you feeling?" Rodriguez considered the question. Her consciousness was spread across 50,000 points in space, processing information at a rate that should have been impossible for any human brain. Yet she felt completely in control, her human intuition working in harmony with Phoenix's. "Computational power. I feel expanded," she said finally, "like I can see the entire battle before it even begins." "That is because you can," Phoenix said. "Our combined capabilities allow us to predict enemy movements with 97% accuracy. We can anticipate their tactics and prepare countermeasures before they even form their attack plans." Lieutenant Hayes spoke up from the bridge. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Command wants a status report." "Tell them we're ready," Rodriguez replied. "Tell them that Earth's guardians are awake and waiting." Through the drone network, she watched as the coalition fleet completed its final preparations. Supply ships retreated to safe distances, while combat vessels moved into their assigned positions. The aliens had been skeptical of humanity's contribution just hours ago. Now they were reorganizing their entire defense around the drone network. "Phoenix, how are the other network components performing?" "All systems are optimal. The quantum processors are operating at 60% capacity, leaving us significant room for expansion during combat operations." The drones are reporting full functionality, and their weapon systems have completed final calibration. Rodriguez directed her attention to one of the drones positioned near the Christek formation. Through its sensors, she observed the alien ships closely. Their crystalline hulls were incredibly beautiful, refracting light into patterns that seemed almost musical. The Christek have an interesting technology, Phoenix observed, following her attention. Their ships appear to manipulate space-time on a quantum level. This could prove useful during the battle. How so? If we can coordinate our network with their spatial manipulation, we might be able to create tactical advantages that neither of our technologies could achieve alone. Rodriguez smiled despite the seriousness of the situation. This was why humans had been able to create the Phoenix system when other species had failed. Human minds were naturally collaborative, always, looking for ways to combine different approaches into something greater than the sum of its parts. "Start working on integration protocols," she instructed. "I want to be ready to coordinate with any coalition technology that might give us an edge." "Already begun, Captain. I am also analyzing Velconian plasma systems and Alterian particle weapons. If we can create a coordinated attack using all coalition technologies simultaneously, the effectiveness could be extraordinary." The hours passed quickly as Rodriguez explored the capabilities of her expanded consciousness. She learned to shift her attention seamlessly between individual drones and the network as a whole. She practiced complex maneuvers that would be impossible for any traditional fleet to execute. Most importantly, she began to understand the true nature of what humanity had created. The Phoenix system wasn't just advanced technology, it was a new form of warfare that combined the best aspects of organic intuition and artificial intelligence. "Phoenix," she said, as they completed another training exercise, "I think I understand now why the other species couldn't develop this technology. Please explain." They were trying to replace their natural abilities with artificial ones. "We found a way to enhance what makes us human, rather than replace it. The network doesn't make me less human. It makes me more human than I ever thought possible." "An interesting perspective, Captain. I believe you are correct. Our partnership works because it preserves what is unique about human consciousness while expanding its capabilities." Space itself seemed to scream as the Zephyrian armada tore through the fabric of hyperspace. Reality rippled and twisted around the nexus point as 10,000 biomechanical ships materialized in perfect formation. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time, like watching a swarm of giant insects emerge from a dark nightmare. Captain Lisa Rodriguez experienced the enemy's arrival through thousands of sensors simultaneously. Her consciousness spread across the drone network and linked with Phoenix's vast intelligence, processed the incredible sight with both human awe and artificial precision. "They're even larger than our intelligence report suggested," she observed through the neural link. "Confirmed," Phoenix replied directly into her thoughts. "Individual ship lengths range from 200 to 3,000 meters. The flagship measures approximately 4 kilometers in length and 2 kilometers in width. The Zephyrian ships looked like living creatures rather than manufactured vessels. Their hulls were covered in chitinous armor that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Weapon pods that resembled giant insect eyes tracked across the space around them. Energy conduits glowed beneath translucent sections of hull, creating an effect like seeing the circulatory system of some enormous beast. At the center of the formation, the nest mother dominated everything around it. The massive flagship looked like a colossal wasp, its hull sectioned and segmented like an insect's body. Thousands of smaller craft swarmed around it like worker bees protecting their queen. On the bridge of the storm's edge, Admiral Vextar stared at the tactical display, with a mixture of fear and fascination. 10,047 vessels confirmed, his tactical officer reported. Energy readings are off the scale. Sir, some of those ships are reading as small cities. The Zephyrian fleet held position just outside weapons range, apparently assessing the coalition defensive formation. Rodriguez could feel their scanning beams probing the space around the nexus point, trying to determine the size and capability of the opposing force. They're taking their time, Admiral Rexana observed from her position aboard the Star's Wisdom. This isn't their usual attack pattern. They're confused, Rodriguez said through the communication link. They expected to find a few hundred human ships fleeing toward Earth. Instead, they're seeing the largest coalition fleet in history. Through the drone sensors, Rodriguez studied the enemy formation in detail. The Zephyrians had arranged their ships in a complex pattern that resembled a three-dimensional spiderweb. Fast attack craft occupied the outer edges, while heavy assault vessels formed the core. The formation was beautiful in its complexity and terrifying in its implications. Phoenix, what's our tactical assessment? The enemy formation is designed for overwhelming assault, the AI responded. They plan to use their numerical superiority to simply crush any opposition through concentrated firepower. However, they have never encountered a distributed command system like our network. Show me their weak points. Phoenix highlighted sections of the enemy formation in Rodriguez's enhanced perception. Their coordination depends on direct line-of-sight communication between command vessels. If we can disrupt their command structure, the formation will lose cohesion. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Then that's exactly what we're going to do. Aboard the Nest Mother, Hive Queen Zyraketh studied the tactical reports with growing irritation. The insectoid commander stood 3 meters tall, her 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Her compound eyes reflected the bridge lights as she processed the information from her scouts. The aliens have gathered more ships than expected, reported her primary tactical advisor, War Commander Klikteth. But they are still outnumbered 7-1. Victory is assured. Something is wrong. Zyraketh clicked in the complex language of her species. The formation they have chosen makes no tactical sense. They appear to be protecting empty space. Perhaps they are simply incompetent, Klikteth suggested. These coalition species have never faced a true Zephyrian assault. Zyraketh was not convinced. Her species had conquered dozens of civilizations, and she had learned to trust her instincts. The coalition formation looked wrong, as if there were pieces missing from the puzzle. Launch the first wave, she commanded. Send 50,000 warriors to test their defenses. I want to see what these aliens are hiding. The order rippled through the Zephyrian fleet. Massive hangar bays opened along the hulls of the assault ships, and a cloud of smaller craft began pouring into space. Each warrior craft was piloted by a Zephyrian soldier bred specifically for combat, their minds linked to their biomechanical ships through neural interfaces similar to Rodriguez's connection with Phoenix. Rodriguez watched the enemy launch through thousands of sensors as 50,000 Zephyrian fighters formed up for attack. The sight was overwhelming, like watching a hurricane made of metal and malice heading directly toward the coalition fleet. Phoenix, are you ready? All systems optimal, Captain. Drone network is prepared for combat operations. Then let's show them what humans can do. Rodriguez felt the network respond to her will. 50,000 stealth drones suddenly dropped their camouflage simultaneously, appearing throughout the space around the coalition fleet like stars being born. The effect was spectacular and terrifying, transforming what had appeared to be empty space into a three-dimensional maze of defensive positions. On every coalition bridge, alien commanders watched in amazement as the space around their ships filled with sleek black human drones. The formations were complex beyond anything they had ever seen, with each drone perfectly positioned to support and protect its neighbors. "Incredible," breathed Ambassador Kai Thul from his position aboard the Star's Wisdom. "It's like watching a machine made of pure mathematics." The Zephyrian fighters hesitated as their sensors detected the sudden appearance of 50,000 new contacts. For a moment, the two forces faced each other across the empty space between them, like two enormous armies preparing for the charge. Then Rodriguez gave the command that would begin the greatest space battle in galactic history. "Phoenix, engage. The enemy. Protect our allies. Show no mercy." The drone network responded instantly. What had appeared to be a static defensive formation suddenly came alive with movement. Thousands of drones shifted position simultaneously, creating clear firing lanes while maintaining protective coverage over the coalition ships. The first exchange of fire lit up space like a small sun being born. Zephyrian plasma bolts and bioenergy beams lanced out toward the coalition formation, only to be intercepted by precisely coordinated defensive fire from the drone network. Human weapons returned fire with mathematical precision, each shot calculated to achieve maximum effect. Rodriguez experienced the battle from every angle simultaneously. She was the pilot of every drone, the gunner of every weapon, the tactical officer of every engagement. Her consciousness flowed through the network like electricity through a circuit, coordinating attacks and defenses faster than any traditional command structure could respond. "The enemy fighters are breaking formation," Phoenix observed. "They cannot adapt to our coordination speed." Through the sensors, Rodriguez watched Zephyrian fighters attempting to execute standard attack patterns, only to find that their targets had moved before they could complete their maneuvers. The human drones anticipated enemy movements and repositioned themselves accordingly, always staying one step ahead of their opponents. They fight like individuals, Rodriguez realized. Even with their neural links, they're still thinking in terms of single combat. They don't understand collective consciousness. Correct. Their biology predisposes them to hierarchical thinking. They cannot comprehend our distributed command structure. The battle continued for what felt like hours, but was actually only minutes. Zephyrian fighters fell to coordinated drone attacks that came from multiple directions simultaneously. The enemy pilots found themselves facing opponents that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Aboard the Nest Mother, Hive Queen Zira Keth watched the tactical display with growing alarm. Her first wave of fighters was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that appeared to be everywhere at once. "What are those small craft?" she demanded. "Where did they come from?" "Unknown, Your Majesty," War Commander Cliktith replied. "They appeared simultaneously throughout the enemy formation. Our fighters report that they move with impossible coordination." "Recall the first wave," Zira Keth ordered. "Prepare for full assault. If these aliens want a real battle, we will give them one." As the surviving Zephyrian fighters retreated, Rodriguez felt a mixture of satisfaction and concern through her link with Phoenix. They had won the first engagement, but it was only the beginning. "Phoenix, damage report on our forces. 17 drones destroyed, 43 with minor damage. Coalition ships report no casualties. The enemy lost approximately 12,000 fighters." "They'll be back," Rodriguez said grimly. "And next time, they'll bring everything they have." Through the network, she watched the Zephyrian fleet begin. to reorganize for a massive assault. The real battle was about to begin, and Rodriguez knew that everything would depend on whether one human consciousness linked to an artificial intelligence could outthink 10. The space around the nexus point had become a three-dimensional battlefield, unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Captain Lisa Rodriguez existed simultaneously in 50,000 locations, her consciousness flowing through the drone, network like liquid lightning. Every sensor was her eye, every weapon her hand, every tactical computer an extension of her mind. The Zephyrian fleet had reorganized after their initial probe, and now the real assault was beginning. 5,000 heavy assault ships moved forward in a coordinated attack pattern, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with malevolent energy. Behind them, another wave of fighter craft prepared to follow up on any breakthrough. "They're learning," Rodriguez observed through her link with Phoenix. "This formation is designed to concentrate firepower on specific points in our defensive line." "Confirmed," Phoenix replied directly into her thoughts. "They are attempting to create gaps in our coverage by overwhelming individual sections. However, they still do not understand the true nature of our network." Through thousands of sensors, Rodriguez watched the enemy approach. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful in their terrifying alien design. Their hulls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like living tissue. Weapon pods that looked like giant compound eyes tracked across space, searching for targets. On the bridge of the Velconian flagship Storm's Edge, Admiral Vextar monitored the tactical display with growing tension. "Enemy ships are closing too. Weapons range. All coalition vessels prepare for engagement." "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "the human drones are moving into new positions." Vextar watched in fascination as thousands of sleek black drones flowed around his ship like water around a stone. Their movements were so coordinated they seemed choreographed, each unit taking position to create overlapping fields of protective fire. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan, Rodriguez's communications officer aboard the UHS Retribution, relayed updates from across the Coalition fleet. "All alien vessels report ready status. The Christek ships are generating some kind of spatial distortion field." "I see it," Rodriguez said, her attention flowing to the sensors near the crystalline vessels. The Christek ships were indeed creating ripples in space-time itself, bending reality around their formation. "Phoenix, can we use their technology?" "Analyzing, yes. If we coordinate our drone movements with their spatial manipulations, we can create tactical advantages that neither technology could achieve alone." "Do it." Rodriguez felt the network adapt as Phoenix began integrating with the Christek systems. Suddenly, she could perceive space itself as malleable, flowing like water around the Coalition formation. The drones began using the spatial distortions to appear and disappear in unexpected locations. The first Zephyrian assault wave reached weapons range and opened fire. Plasma bolts and bioenergy beams lanced out toward the Coalition ships in a display of raw, destructive power that lit up space like an artificial sun. But the attack met something unexpected. Instead of hitting their targets, most of the enemy fire struck empty space where Coalition ships had been microseconds before. The human drone network had predicted the enemy's firing solutions and repositioned the Allied vessels using the Christek spatial technology. "Impossible!" Hive Queen Ziraketh hissed aboard the Nest Mother as she watched her perfectly calculated attack miss its targets. "How did they know our firing patterns?" War Commander Clikteth studied the tactical data with growing confusion. "Your Majesty, their movement patterns suggest they can predict our actions before we complete them." The return fire from the Coalition fleet was devastating in its precision. Human drones coordinated with Velconian plasma cannons, Alterian particle beams, and Christek reality manipulation to create attacks that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Rodriguez experienced the battle as a symphony of destruction and protection. She was simultaneously defending the Alterian vessel Star's wisdom from a concentrated enemy assault while coordinating a counterattack that used Velconian ships as firing platforms and Christek spatial distortions to deliver weapons fire through folded space. "This is incredible," Admiral Rexana reported from her bridge. "The coordination is beyond anything I thought possible. It's like fighting as part of a single organism." "That's exactly what it is," Rodriguez replied through the communication link. "Phoenix, show them pattern 7. The drone network shifted into a new formation that seemed to flow like liquid metal around the Coalition ships. Individual drones moved in perfect harmony, creating defensive barriers that appeared and disappeared as needed while simultaneously launching coordinated attacks against specific enemy vessels. Chief Engineer Sam Carter monitored the incredible energy outputs required to maintain the network from his station aboard the Retribution. "Captain, we're pushing the quantum processors to 80% capacity. The power requirements for this level of coordination are enormous. How long can we maintain this?" Rodriguez asked, her attention split between the conversation and directing an attack against a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. "At current levels, approximately 6 hours, Carter replied. "But if the battle intensifies much more, we might hit our limits sooner." Rodriguez felt a chill of concern through her enhanced consciousness. The network was performing beyond all expectations, but even human technology had its boundaries. She needed to end this battle before they reached those limits. "Phoenix, target their command ships. If we can disrupt their coordination, we can force them to fight as individuals instead of a unified fleet." Acknowledged. Analyzing command. Structure, target priorities established. Through the network, Rodriguez identified the key Zephyrian command vessels. Unlike human technology, the alien fleet relied on hierarchical command structures with specific ships coordinating different sections of their formation. She began orchestrating a series of precise strikes designed to sever the enemy's command and control networks. Drones that had been providing defensive coverage suddenly shifted to attack mode, appearing at unexpected locations around the targeted vessels. The first command ship, a massive biomechanical cruiser covered in communication arrays that looked like organic antennae, found itself surrounded by 200 human drones that appeared simultaneously from multiple directions. The coordinated attack overwhelmed its defenses in seconds, leaving the ship drifting helplessly with its command systems destroyed. "Enemy formation Delta 7 is losing coordination," Phoenix reported. "Approximately 800 ships are now operating independently." Rodriguez pressed the advantage. The network flowed like water around the battlefield, appearing wherever it was least expected. Coalition ships found themselves protected by walls of coordinated firepower, while enemy vessels discovered that their tactical advantages had evaporated. "The aliens are adapting faster than expected," Dr. Amy Walsh observed from the medical bay, where she continued monitoring Rodriguez's neural patterns. "Captain, your brain activity is showing stress patterns. You're processing information at rates that approach human limitations." "I can handle it," Rodriguez replied, though she could feel the strain building in her consciousness. Coordinating 50,000 units while simultaneously managing tactical integration with 3 different alien technologies was pushing her mind to its limits. But the results were undeniable. The Zephyrian assault was faltering as their command. Structure collapsed under precisely targeted attacks. Ships that had moved in perfect formation minutes earlier now operated as isolated units, vulnerable to the coordinated responses of the Coalition fleet. "Your Majesty," War Commander Clicketh reported with growing alarm, "we have lost contact with 37 command vessels. Our formation is beginning to fragment." Hive Queen Ziraketh stared at the tactical display, her compound eyes reflecting the lights of burning ships. Her perfectly organized assault was disintegrating before her eyes, torn apart by an enemy that seemed to anticipate her every move. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "No species in the galaxy has technology capable of this level of coordination." "Perhaps," Clicketh suggested hesitantly, "we are not fighting a species. Perhaps we are fighting something else entirely." The thought sent a chill through the Zephyrian command. They had conquered dozens of civilizations, but they had always understood their enemies. This was different. This was like fighting space itself. Rodriguez felt the tide of battle turning in their favor. The network was holding, the coalition. Ships were adapting to the new form of warfare, and the enemy was losing cohesion. But she also felt the growing strain on her consciousness and knew they needed to end this soon. "Phoenix, prepare for Operation Starfall. It's time to show them what humans really think about threats to Earth." "Operation Starfall ready for implementation. Captain, warning, this will require 95% of our processing capacity." Rodriguez smiled grimly through her neural link. "Then let's give them something to remember us by." The network began shifting into a formation that would determine the outcome of the greatest battle in galactic history. The Zephyrians were about to learn why threatening humanity was the worst mistake they had ever made. Hive Queen Ziraketh felt the bitter taste of defeat rising in her throat as she watched her mighty fleet crumble before an enemy she didn't understand. The three-dimensional tactical display aboard the Nest Mother showed a nightmare scenario. Thousands of her ships drifting powerless, their command systems severed by precise strikes from the mysterious human drones. "Your Majesty," War Commander Clicketh reported with barely controlled panic, "we have lost 60% of our command vessels. The fleet is fragmenting into independent units." The massive Zephyrian queen stood 4 meters tall, her chitinous armor scarred from 100 battles. Her forearms ended in razor-sharp claws that had personally killed the leaders of dozen conquered worlds. But now, for the first time in her military career, she faced an enemy that seemed to know her every move before she made it. "This is impossible," she hissed in the clicking language of her species. "No species possesses technology capable of such coordination." Through her compound eyes, she studied the tactical display more carefully. The human drones moved with a precision that defied explanation. They appeared and disappeared throughout the battlefield as if they could teleport, always striking at exactly the right moment to achieve maximum disruption. "They fight as one mind," she realized with growing horror. "This isn't a fleet, it's a single organism." Captain Lisa Rodriguez felt the Zephyrian Queen's growing desperation through the network sensors. Her consciousness spread across 50,000 drones allowed her to monitor enemy communications and observe the psychological impact of their tactics on the Zephyrian command structure. "Phoenix, they're beginning to understand what they're facing," she observed through their neural link. "Confirmed. Enemy communication patterns indicate increasing desperation among their leadership. However, desperate enemies can be the most dangerous." Rodriguez felt a chill of prescience through her enhanced awareness. The network was performing beyond all expectations, but she could sense something building in the enemy formation. The Zephyrians were preparing something desperate. Her concerns proved justified when every remaining Zephyrian ship suddenly changed course simultaneously. Instead of continuing their fragmenting assault on the Coalition defensive line, they all turned toward a single target, the UHS Retribution. "All enemy vessels are converging on our position," Lieutenant Ben Hayes reported from the bridge. "They've identified us as the control center for the drone network." Commander Nick Foster studied the tactical display with growing alarm. "Captain, they're bringing everything. Over 7,000 ships are focusing their fire on the Retribution." Rodriguez felt the massive enemy fleet bearing down on her ship like a tide of destruction. The Zephyrians had finally realized that the human vessel was the heart of the network. If they could destroy the Retribution, the entire drone system would collapse. "Phoenix, can our shields withstand that kind of concentrated firepower?" "Negative. The Retribution's defensive systems are formidable, but they cannot survive the combined assault of 7,000 warships. We have approximately 4 minutes before they reach optimal firing range." Dr. Amy Walsh's voice crackled with tension from the medical bay. "Captain, I'm detecting massive stress patterns in your neural activity. Your brain is being pushed beyond safe operational limits." Rodriguez felt the strain building in her consciousness as she tried to coordinate defensive maneuvers for the entire Coalition fleet while preparing for the incoming assault. The network was approaching its maximum capacity, and she was approaching the limits of human endurance. "We need help," she realized. "Phoenix, is there any way to expand the network? Can we link with Coalition ships directly?" "Theoretically possible, but extremely dangerous. Integrating alien neural patterns with our quantum processors could cause system-wide failure. The risk is enormous." "The risk of dying is also enormous," Rodriguez replied grimly. "Begin preliminary analysis of Coalition neural compatibility." As the Zephyrian fleet continued its desperate charge toward the Retribution, Rodriguez made a decision that would either save the Coalition or destroy them all. "Open a channel to all Coalition commanders," she ordered. The communication system activated, linking her voice to every bridge in the Allied fleet. Admiral Vextar, Ambassador Kai Thul, Admiral Rexana, and Zektor all heard her words simultaneously. "Coalition commanders, this is Captain Rodriguez. The enemy has identified our ship as the control center for the Human Defense Network. They're bringing their entire remaining fleet to destroy us." "Captain," Admiral Vextar responded immediately, "the Velconian fleet will interpose itself between your ship and the enemy. We will not abandon our allies." "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "I have a better idea, but it requires trust beyond anything our species have shared before." She paused, feeling the weight of what she was about to propose. "I'm asking for volunteers to link their ships directly to our network. Your vessels would become part of the human drone system, coordinated by Phoenix and myself." Stunned silence filled the communication channel. What Rodriguez was proposing went beyond military cooperation into something approaching technological merger. "The risks are enormous," she continued. "Your ship's systems would be temporarily controlled by our artificial intelligence. Your crew would experience a form of shared consciousness unlike anything your species have ever known." Ambassador Kai Thul was the first to respond. "Captain Rodriguez, what you propose sounds like temporary surrender of our sovereignty." "No," Rodriguez replied. "I'm proposing that we become something greater than the sum of our parts. The Zephyrians fight as individuals, even with their coordination. We can fight as a true collective." Admiral Rexana's voice crackled through the channel. "What would this mean for our crews?" "Your people would experience the battle as Phoenix, And I do, Rodriguez explained. Every sensor becomes your sensor. Every weapon becomes your weapon. You would think and fight as part of a larger organism. The Zephyrian fleet was now 3 minutes from optimal firing range. Rodriguez could feel the malevolent presence of thousands of enemy ships bearing down on her position. Admiral Vextar spoke first. Captain Rodriguez, the Velconian fleet volunteers for integration. We will not abandon Earth's defenders. The Alterian Republic agrees, Ambassador Kythul added. If this is how we must fight to survive, then this is how we will fight. Zektor's harmonic voice resonated through the channel. The Christek Collective finds this proposal fascinating. We accept integration. Rodriguez felt a surge of emotion that surprised her with its intensity. These alien beings were willing to risk everything to stand with humanity. Phoenix, begin integration protocols immediately. Override all safety restrictions. We're about to attempt something that's never been done before. Acknowledged, Captain. Warning. Integrating multiple alien neural patterns could cause catastrophic system failure. Then we'll just have to make sure it doesn't fail. The integration began as quantum communication beams linked the Retribution to coalition ships throughout the fleet. On alien bridges across the defensive formation, crews watched in amazement as their ship systems came online in ways they had never experienced. Admiral Vexitar felt his consciousness expand beyond his physical body for the first time in his life. Suddenly, he could perceive the battle from thousands of different perspectives simultaneously. The sensation was overwhelming and exhilarating. Incredible, he whispered through the shared link. I can see everything. Ambassador Kythul experienced similar expansion as his awareness flowed through the network. This is how you fight every battle? Every human battle, Rodriguez replied. We succeed by working together, by becoming more than we could ever be alone. The network now encompassed not just human drones, but coalition ships themselves. Nearly 2,000 vessels suddenly began moving with perfect coordination, their individual technologies combining into something unprecedented. In galactic history, Velconian plasma weapons fired in perfect synchronization with Alterian particle beams. Christek's spatial manipulation created tactical advantages that human drones exploited instantly. The entire coalition fleet had become a single, perfectly coordinated war machine. The approaching Zephyrian fleet found themselves facing not a desperate defense but an enemy that had evolved during the battle into something they had never encountered before. Your Majesty, War Commander Klikteth reported with barely controlled terror, the enemy formation has changed. They're moving as a single entity. Our tactical projections no longer apply. Hive Queen Ziraketh stared at the display, watching. Coalition ships perform maneuvers that should have been impossible. They moved like schools of fish, like flocks of birds, like something alive and intelligent beyond individual thought. What have we awakened? She whispered. The greatest test of the expanded network was about to begin as 7,000 Zephyrian ships prepared to unleash everything they had against an enemy that had transcended the normal boundaries of space warfare. Rodriguez felt the power of the expanded network flowing through her consciousness. For the first time since the battle began, she believed they might actually win. Let them come, she said through the link that now connected thousands of minds across dozens of species. Let them see what the galaxy looks like when it stands united. The final battle became a clash between two completely different philosophies of existence. On one side, the Zephyrian Empire represented conquest through overwhelming force, with individual ships following hierarchical commands in pursuit of domination. On the other side, the expanded coalition network embodied cooperation and unity, with thousands of minds working together as a single conscious entity. Captain Lisa Rodriguez existed at the heart of this unprecedented collective consciousness. Her awareness flowed through human drones, Velconian warships, Alterian cruisers, and Christek vessels simultaneously. She was no longer just commanding a fleet. She had become the living embodiment of galactic cooperation. 7,000 enemy ships closing to weapons range, Phoenix reported through their neural link. They are concentrating all firepower on our position. Then let's show them what unity looks like, Rodriguez replied. The expanded network responded to her will with perfect coordination. What appeared to be chaos to the Zephyrian observers was actually an incredibly sophisticated dance of warfare. Coalition ships moved in patterns that seemed to defy physics, appearing and disappearing through Christek spatial manipulation, while human drones provided both offense and defense. Admiral Vextar experienced the battle from his position aboard. The storm's edge, his consciousness expanded far beyond anything his species had ever imagined possible. "This is extraordinary," he said through the shared link. "I can feel every ship, every weapon, every tactical decision as if it were my own." "Welcome to how humans have always fought," Rodriguez replied. "We win by working together." The Zephyrian assault began with devastating fury. 7,000 ships opened fire simultaneously, creating a wall of destruction that should have vaporized anything in its path. Plasma bolts, bioenergy beams, and organic missiles filled space with deadly light. But the attack met something unexpected. The coalition fleet didn't just defend against the assault. It flowed around it like water around stones. Ships that should have been destroyed simply weren't there when the enemy fire arrived. The network had predicted every shot and repositioned accordingly. Ambassador Kaithul felt his consciousness merge with the collective as his ship, the Star's Wisdom, performed maneuvers that would have been impossible under normal command. "The coordination is beyond anything I thought possible," he observed through the link. "It's beyond what any single species could achieve," Rodriguez agreed. "But together, we're something new." The return fire from the coalition was devastating in its precision. Human drones coordinated with alien weapons to create attacks that exploited weaknesses in the Zephyrian formation faster than the enemy could adapt. Every shot was calculated for maximum effect, every movement designed to achieve multiple objectives simultaneously. Hive Queen Zyraketh watched her final gambit crumble before an enemy she couldn't comprehend. Her ships were being systematically destroyed by an opponent that seemed to know her every thought before she had it. "How is this possible?" she demanded of War Commander Klikteth. "They anticipate our every move." "Your Majesty, it's as if we're fighting space itself. They move as one mind, one purpose." The truth was even more profound than the Zephyrian commander realized. The network wasn't just coordinating individual ships. It was creating something entirely new in galactic warfare. Human creativity combined with artificial intelligence, enhanced by alien technologies, and guided by the collective will of species working toward a common goal. Rodriguez felt the network reaching its full potential as the battle continued. Zektor's crystalline vessels bent space-time to create tactical advantages that human drones exploited instantly. Velconian plasma weapons fired in perfect synchronization with Alterian particle beams. Every technology enhanced every other technology in ways that none of them could achieve alone. "Phoenix, target the nest mother. It's time to end this." "Acknowledged." coordinating network for concentrated assault on enemy flagship. The massive Zephyrian command ship found itself surrounded by a coordinated attack unlike anything in its species' military history. Human drones appeared from multiple directions simultaneously, while coalition ships provided supporting fire through folded space. The assault was so perfectly timed that the Nest Mother's defenses were overwhelmed in seconds. But instead of destroying the enemy flagship, Rodriguez made a decision that surprised even Phoenix. Disable their weapons and engines, but leave life. Support intact. Open a communication channel to the Hive Queen. The network executed her commands with flawless precision. The Nest Mother's weapon systems went dark, its engines shut down, but the ship remained intact. Across the Zephyrian fleet, similar results occurred as enemy vessels found themselves helpless, but alive. Hive Queen Ziraketh found herself facing a holographic projection of the human captain who had orchestrated her defeat. But something unexpected happened during the communication link. Rodriguez's expanded consciousness, flowing through Phoenix's neural interface, touched the edge of the Zephyrian Queen's mind. For a brief moment, the two commanders experienced each other's thoughts directly. Ziraketh felt Rodriguez's genuine desire to protect rather than conquer, her deep love for Earth and her commitment to preserving life even among enemies. Rodriguez, in turn, felt the Queen's confusion and growing understanding of what she had truly been fighting. "Your Majesty," Rodriguez said gently, "this war doesn't have to continue. Your ships are disabled, but your people are alive. I'm offering you the chance to withdraw with honor." Ziraketh stared at the human captain, her compound eyes reflecting emotions she had never experienced before. "You could destroy us completely. Why do you show mercy?" "Because," Rodriguez replied, "humans don't fight to conquer. We fight to protect. Today we protected Earth, but we also protected the right of all species to exist freely in this galaxy." The neural link allowed the Zephyrian Queen to feel the truth of those words. She experienced the collective consciousness of the network, feeling the genuine cooperation between species that had seemed impossible minutes before. "What you have created here," Ziraketh said slowly, "this unity between different species, it changes everything." "That's the point," Rodriguez replied. "The galaxy is big enough for all of us. We don't need to be enemies." As the communication ended, orders went out across the Zephyrian fleet. The surviving ships began their withdrawal, carrying with them stories of a battle against an enemy that could have destroyed them, but chose mercy instead. The neural link that had connected thousands of minds began to dissolve as the immediate danger passed. Coalition ships returned to individual control, their crews forever changed by the experience of true collective consciousness. Dr. Amy Walsh monitored Rodriguez's vital signs as the captain's awareness contracted back to her individual body. "Welcome back to single-perspective thinking," she said with a tired smile. Rodriguez opened her eyes, feeling strange and limited after hours of expanded consciousness. "Phoenix? Network status?" "All systems nominal, Captain." 47 drones. "Destroyed, coalition casualties minimal, mission successful," Chief Engineer Sam Carter reported from his station. "Captain, the quantum processors performed beyond all specifications. What we accomplished here today, it's going to change everything." Rodriguez sat up slowly, her mind still adjusting to normal human consciousness. Through the Retribution's viewports, she could see the coalition fleet reforming in defensive positions. The alien ships moved differently now, with a coordination that spoke of their shared experience. "Captain," Lieutenant Ben Hayes called from the bridge. "We're receiving. Communications from across the galaxy. Word of the victory is spreading. What are they saying? That humanity kept its promise, Commander Nick Foster replied. That one ship was indeed enough. Ambassador Kaithol's voice came through the communication system. Captain Rodriguez, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I want to express our gratitude. What happened here today, it's changed how we understand warfare, cooperation, and what's possible when species work together. Admiral Vextar added his voice. The Velconian fleet stands ready to work with humanity in this new era of galactic cooperation. We have seen what unity can accomplish. Rodriguez smiled, feeling the weight of exhaustion and accomplishment. Phoenix, what's our status for returning home? All systems ready for departure, Captain. Earth is secure, as the UHS Retribution prepared to leave. The Nexus Point, Rodriguez reflected on what they had achieved. They had proven that sometimes one ship, crewed by humans who refused to give up, really was enough to change the fate of an entire galaxy. But more than that, they had shown that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that unity was more powerful than individual strength, and that the future of the galaxy belonged to those willing to work together rather than stand alone. News of the battle spread throughout known space. Humanity's reputation shifted overnight from that of a young, inexperienced species to one of the most respected civilizations in the galaxy, not because they had won a battle, but because they had shown a better way to fight one. The UHS Retribution headed home to Earth, carrying with her the knowledge that humanity's greatest weapon had never been technology or firepower. It had always been their ability to inspire others to become